Although I haven't seen too many people playing them in tournaments yet, I definitely think Cathay is quite a bit stronger in the 1.2 update, and I want to show you a couple of replays today in Domination of them absolutely showing their new strength. One of the things about Cathay is they can go extremely wide, right? Kind of similar to how the Empire used to be. They have a lot of cost-effective mid to low-tier troops. And at the same time, they have very cost-effective generic lords. The shooting gun lords in particular are excellent caster, fighter, hybrid lords with great mobility. The magistrate is also technically here. He can be a flying shooting lord, which against a faction like Slaanesh can actually be situationally strong, considering they generally lack any flying tools and missiles, especially when you also consider that the Astromancer's Wuxing War Compass mount is now quite a bit better, coming with some bound quote-unquote bound spells, right, which means they are abilities with a set number of charges that don't use Winds of Magic. Makes them quite a bit better, and of course he, being a caster, can also cast spells on top of it, so you get quite a bit of benefit now from taking it as a mount. I definitely am a huge fan of that. Gives him a bunch of armor and HP as well, and he does have 300 weapon strength on it with magical damage, which is nothing to sneeze at. We've also got the new and improved Jade Lancers, up to 55 charge bonus. These guys are better than Empire Knights ever were, considering they're less cost and have better charge, a little bit less armor, but still almost in all other ways very comparable to Empire Knights. Plus, they have Harmony added on top of that. When they're within range to get Harmony, their melee defense will go up considerably, especially for a heavy shock cavalry of this type. Then for the rest of the army, I've got 5 bows and 5 peasant long spears. Very straightforward. In reserve, we've got some more elites, sky junk. I've got dune dragons, 2 grand cannons, some jade crossbows, jade warriors, and peasant horsemen. My opponent here, world beater, I do think, did he say he was unfamiliar with this matchup? I actually don't remember, but he does have some furies, definitely very good. 4 furies up front. Got some marauders, some demonettes, herald of Slaanesh as well, then lots of cavalry and marauders in reserve, with some demonettes and yeah, seekers, 1 fiend as well. Got the 3 hell scourges and 5 anti-infantry marauders. So let's get started today, and let's see what Cathay can do. Definitely having the benefit of the Flying Lord here, of course, means as long as I'm able to protect from the Furies, and a lot of people will kind of overanalyze and often overinvest in, especially in against a mobile faction like Slaanesh, you don't want to overinvest in your missiles, which is why I've gone wide with cheap archers here, and at the same time max cavalry immediately to be able to protect them right off the bat. So the idea here is I don't have any longmas, but the peasant archers will just shoot the Furies out of the sky if they go for the magistrate on his balloon. If they try and come to the ground, I can countercharge them with the Jade Lancers, and so it just doesn't leave any comfortable place for the Furies to try and get in on this combat, at least unless they wait a considerable amount of time for support. Herald of Slaanesh does come in on the chariot, which confers quite a bit of benefits here. Great disruption, perfect vigor, huge mobility factor, and the yeah, escapability as well, which the mass of the chariot and the speed does provide. Of course, poison as well, quite a bit of benefit. But of course, the dread balloon lord here, the magistrate of doom, here on his balloon with his picked snipers, taking some pot shots. They're going to be doing some damage over time to the Herald. She definitely wants to stay moving anyway because of the nature of the way the chariot interacts. But you can see here, I'm just coming forward, taking a nice wide stance. Leader here mostly conceding the center, not really pushing heavily in the center. He's kind of got a small force in the flank over here and a larger force in the flank over here. On this map, it is sort of like more of a land battle with a little bit of reinforcements. We're going to see some Summon Furies come in here immediately, and the issue here is that, I mean, I am focusing my archers initially on trying to get at the Herald, but the Furies do come in, and this is where the Jade Lancers come into play. Again, it's kind of like a pick your poison from Slaanesh's perspective, right? You can either die to the archers, or you can die to the shock cavalry, coming in with that fat 55 charge bonus. Here come the Jade Lancers in a support situation. immediately just crumping all over those Chaos Furies. They evaporate very quickly, although they did do some pretty good damage to the Peasant Archers. Still, I mean, the summon, that's fine, but like these Slaanesh Furies, individually, 1-to-1, they are more expensive than my Archers, so that's one reason, like, again, even against a quote-unquote slower faction, really any of the Chaos factions that can take Furies, I would say it's better in most situations to just go wide with Archers. Khorne's the only one where the armor makes it a little bit tricky. You probably want to actually take, like, crossbows maybe there. I don't know. I'd have to think about that matchup a little bit more. I haven't had a chance to play it too much myself, but more Furies rushing in, getting on those Peasant Archers, doing some pretty good damage. Meanwhile, the forces are collapsing from the high ground here. We've got Marauders of Slaanesh, Demonettes coming in, the more infantry coming in, getting into contact. But my spears can just hold for the time being. And this very much feels to me like playing the Empire, I have to say, with this strong cavalry force. Just like 2 and 2. This is pretty much how I used to play the Empire back in the day, too. Two different cavalry groups, right? Grouped on usually like 5 and 6, 5 and 7 maybe on my actual number groups. Ping-ponging around different parts of the battlefield here, bogging down those fiends. We've got huge bombardment there from the Wujing War Compass. You can see him kind of just hanging in the back there. The Astromancer going to be casting a Wind Blast there as well. So, I mean, unfortunately, we never got the Celestial Hurricanum for the Empire, which definitely, there's room for that in a DLC, certainly for the future for the Empire, but the Eastern Empire definitely coming in strong today, like Spearmen and Archers and Empire Knights, basically. But everything's made of jade. It's just beautiful. Another lightning strike there from the Wujing. Cavalry just coming in, more decisive rear charges on those fiends as they continue to fight here. And the Marauders also over on this side, just paying a heavy price. Despite the Fury's best efforts too, I mean, they came in, did considerable damage, killed a few of the Archers, but a few units still survive. Even this one here, still at full HP. And now comes the rocket in for the backbreaker. Of course, Slaanesh has taken the lead on points. They've managed to secure this center objective. Neither of us have gone for the high ground objective. We're basically both just going all in on the fight at this point, trying to win in terms of value. But Compass there drops another Comet. I'm just basically blowing the entire load of this guy early on. I can always unsummon and resummon him if I want to refill those charges. But, oh man, such a beautiful game. Not too much tactics besides, you know, what I've just described going on here. The cavalry running around, just crumping units. See that the Slaanesh, I mean, I wish I had the value to show you guys here exactly what's going on with the army damage values, because it's been a little bit brutal for Slaanesh, you can say. And the Chariot's still alive, just barely. But, of course, anytime it holds still, that Magistrate, Sniper is going to be taking pot shots. And that's just enough damage over time to force Crumbling. World Beater's actually going to throw in the towel there. Very, probably deservedly so, I would say. That's probably a polite resign and a very appropriate manners resign, because it was pretty hopeless for him to continue on there. So I totally understand. Well, I've got a second replay to show you, although I guess I could end the video right now, and this would probably be enough length to stand on its own, but I wanted to show you one more anyway, so we'll get to it in just a second. In terms of my army damage value, I mean, cavalry comes in, does some great work. Archers are generally cost-effective, even though they're also kind of bait here as well. Some of the spearmen randomly get some really nice value. I got probably against the Lord. A lot of the others have issues. Junk comes in, doesn't really do much. A lot of these other units really just don't even have the time to be summoned, to be honest. But a lot of that comes in on just basically the cavalry. The new and improved Jade Lancers sort of shining through there. The Compass also, and just the general sort of the way I think it benefits Cathay. Basically, my whole point is play wide, use a lot of Jade Lancers, use your cheap characters to good effect, and Cathay, I think, will shine in this patch, absolutely. On Slaanesh's side, it's a little bit rough, you know. I'd have to kind of work through this matchup again on my own and see. I'm not the biggest fan of Demonettes how they currently are. I think they could probably use with a little bit of a cost reduction, perhaps, just to make them a little bit easier to work with since they are so squishy. But maybe just holding back, not charging initially, waiting until you have more value on the field so you can kind of go for a full envelopment, have those Furies survive. But anyway, let's go on to the next replay without further ado. Same map, one same faction. Instead, though, the Demons of Tzeentch are going to be the target of Cathay's wrath. Got a little bit of a different build setup as well. I didn't show you the reinforcements. We can look at those after the fact and those that come into the battle that are relevant. But anyway, Shugengan Lord leading the way. We've got Peasant Long Spears, some Dune Dragons, and more Celestial Dragon Guards up front. Of course, like I said, up against the Demons of Tzeentch, 2 Iron Hail Gunners, which I also recently talked about. They didn't necessarily get a direct buff, but just the fixes to missile units have made them functional and actually pretty decent, based on some results I've seen recently. Some Peasant Long Spears, big crossbows on the flanks for Tzeentch, coming in with Kairos immediately, and the Furies and the Doom Knights immediately just getting unloaded by said... what are they? I just forget the name immediately. Iron Hails, that's right. And yeah, they seem to have gotten hung up on something. I don't know. Something cancels out their charge. It looks like maybe the Shugengan Lord canceled out their charge, but it doesn't take long for them to just get completely shredded by AP missiles. In fact, very alarmingly short amount of time, in fact, that they get completely eliminated there. We've got another Exalted Flamer here. We've got some Pink Horrors and a Blue Horror also. Side-shotting into these infantry is going to do quite a bit of damage. The increased range of the Exalted Pink does mean that it can outrange quite a bit of this Cathayan stuff. 150 range is absolutely more than the Iron Hails. It's not quite more than the Crossbowmen, but it is close enough that you can maybe cheeky, you know, run in, get a shot, and then retreat before they can respond too much. But this crossbow is already responding there. The Shugengan Lord also get a nice attack on Kairos as he comes in. He's going to have to be careful. He's close in here to where there was some cavalry summoned in, some high mass units to try and pin him up against all this stuff. He could face some very, very serious issues, but Cathay now pushing up on the high ground and definitely taking some missiles in the face. I mean, certainly Peasant Long Spears are not going to be the best at getting shot by blues and pinks, but the fact that the Dune Dragons are in combat certainly helpful there. Nice speed debuff, Storm of Shadows from the lore of, what is it, Yin? Yes, Lore of Yin. I'm starting to learn, guys. Starting to learn. The Lore of Yin, very nice. I've seen some good utility out of that recently, whereas I think people had initially kind of ignored that spell. But Dune Dragons also just pushing forward. That extra shield does help. The magic resistance will probably help too if Kairos tries to side shot them. More of a discouragement than anything else. It will help to a degree, but should you actually want to cast spells at them, they will still take damage, absolutely, just like they're taking damage from that shooting there. Doom Knights also putting in a little rear charge, so looking interesting so far. The issue here is that Kairos is just having a hard time, even with Oracle of Eternity. That little foray there into the Cathayan lines, getting speed debuffed, getting caught up on a bunch of stuff. He's also struggling quite mightily here. Definitely a hard time, but let's see. We're going to have a Storm of the Night get unleashed here. Yeah, some Celestial Dragon Guard, Peasant Long Spears just taking a strong position to secure this location. So nice AoE damage here. Putting all the work in on those Pink Horrors. Not the Overcast version, but enough, certainly, to even out the fight. Help those Peasant Long Spears kind of handle. Certainly the last of the Doom Knights are gone. And look at this, man. I love the use of the Iron Hails in particular. It's a unit that I had really discounted initially and had sort of written off as completely useless, but I've seen them really resurgent in this particular patch. Very cool to see. Kairos also, very cool animations, dropping a fat bombardment in the distance there. Doesn't actually catch all that much. Is going to do some damage to the Doom Dragons, but could have been a little bit better placed, or even to wait a little bit until the Cathayans blob up more. But Tzeentch is getting very thin on the field. It's a full fat 3-cap for Grand Cathay, so definitely not looking great for Tzeentch initially here. The Exalted Flamer getting run down by the dragon-blooded Shugengan Lord, even as she gets shot up by the Flamers of Tzeentch. Got some Jade Lancers coming in. The armor, Jade Lancers definitely helps, and there we go. Tzeentch throws in the towel. So another pretty quick one for Cathay, but I figured I would tie these two together. It would give me like a regular length domination video, right? And just impressive performance overall. The shielded crossbows in this matchup have always been pretty good, but I'm very surprised at how well the Iron Hails performed. I mean, I guess it does make sense that the Tzeentch shooting is about the same range, right? I think Pinks, Blues are right around the same kind of 90 range, right? I think Pinks are a little higher maybe, but just in general, they're not at that much risk of getting outranged versus Tzeentch in the same way that they would versus, say, like Kislev or another faction with traditional archers. They are in a good position here, and Tzeentch is one of those factions where, particularly in this matchup, Doom Knights and the ground-based Knights are both pretty common picks, and I am a big fans of them as well in this matchup, so as sort of a soft counter to those units, as long as you can keep them protected, I do like that trade quite a bit, and here they just absolutely devastated both of these units of elite Tzeentch Knights that came in here, caused Kairos huge problems. Exalted Flamer did pretty okay, it was almost able to pay back its value, but just in general, the army had pretty major problems, wasn't able to really shoot effectively, and weirdly enough, I think probably you want to go with a melee rush now in this matchup with Tzeentch, even in Domination. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Hopefully you enjoyed this look at brand new Grand Cathay. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again, we'll see you next time.